As the title implies, this is a new series I'm starting where I do a basic overview of a tank or tank series. It will mainly be the history of the tank followed by my thoughts on how the tank performs. I figured that the M1 Abrams was a pretty good place to start. It's an extremely popular tank, and one that I'm pretty knowledgeable on. Anyway, let's get started. The story of the Abrams goes all the way back to 1963, with the inception of the MBT-70 program, a joint effort between the US and Germany to make a universal main battle tank. The MBT-70 was an innovative design, which placed the entire crew in the turret. The driver's position would automatically rotate, so he always faced forward relative to the whole front, but this was extremely disorienting. The commander could choose to take control of weapon systems or the tank itself, should he feel the need to do so. The MBT-70 also included advanced concepts such as an autoloader, remote-controlled 20mm cannon, 152mm gun launcher, hydro-pneumatic suspension, TV screens, and blowout panels for the magazine. The MBT-70 program faced a lot of trouble, however. The MBT-70's extensive use of new technology made it temperamental. Issues were encountered with the fire control equipment, Germany's automatic loader, the US's Continental engine, and the US's turret drive. The two nations also had differing opinions on the tank's overall design, leading to a number of changes and delays. By 1969, the MBT-70 was still incomplete, and the Department of Defense, eager for an explanation, requested a review of the program. The results were not promising. It was estimated that the total cost of the program would be $544 million, or around $3.8 billion in today's money. The cost for a single MBT-70 was estimated to be $1.2 million, or around $8.5 million today. Soon after the review was complete, joint development of the MBT-70 was cancelled. Germany planned to start from scratch in designing their new MBT, while the US tried to salvage their end of the MBT-70 program. The US attempted to reduce costs by cutting certain features and switching entirely to American components, resulting in the XM803. Even after the intense cost cutting, the XM803 was simply too expensive. This, combined with the unfavorable experiences with gun launcher systems, killed the XM803 in December of 1971. In February of 1972, a design committee called the Main Battle Tank Task Force was created and tasked with defining the characteristics of the US's future main battle tank. $20 million were allocated for 2 industrial prototypes. Contracts were awarded to Chrysler and General Motors for design studies, with TACOM also providing their own. Eventually, a general design was slotted in. The new tank would make use of special armor arrays, blowout panels, torsion bar suspension, the 105 cannon used on the M60, and an engine putting out 1,500 horsepower. The tank was originally going to use a Bushmaster cannon as a coaxial weapon, but this was later replaced with a 7.62 machine gun. The cannon was going to be used against light vehicles, so main gun ammunition could be saved, but it was determined that tank crews would use the main gun against these targets anyway, so the amount of space the coaxial cannon took up wasn't warranted. The special armor to be used in the design was narrowed down to Britain's Chobham composite armor, which would see licensed use in the United States as Burlington. The tank's armor would be designed to withstand 115mm sabot rounds and large caliber heat warheads. In January of 1976, the validation phase prototypes from GM and Chrysler were delivered to Aberdeen Proving Ground. The two prototypes were pretty similar, with the main difference being the choice of power plant. The GM prototype used a diesel engine, while the Chrysler prototype used a gas turbine. It was soon decided that the new tank would eventually utilize 120mm gun, either the German smoothbore or the British rifled. It was ordered that the new tank should have a turret capable of housing either the 105 or the 120, with minimal modification. The Chrysler prototype eventually won the contract, and in 1979 was christened the Abrams, after General Creighton Abrams. In 1981, the Abrams was classified as standard and given the designation of M1. The M1 was very well received by the troops, despite some teething problems which were solved quickly. The M1 was eventually fitted with the German smoothbore gun. This, combined with improved armor protection, led to the M1A1. The M1 would continue to see incremental improvements in armor and electronics, ultimately leading to the current M1A2C, which also incorporates a hard kill active protection system. Overall, the M1 is a very solid design. It initially lacked in the firepower department when it was stuck with the 105 cannon, but that was merely a stopgap measure. The smoothbore 120 has proven to be effective, though it's probably a bit outdated by now. There was an experiment to put a 140 electrothermal chemical gun in an Abrams, with the test bed being named Thumper, but the project was cancelled for a number of reasons. Mobility-wise, the Abrams is pretty good. There's a deep misunderstanding about the turbine engine that it utilizes, with many people assuming that the Abrams has a limited range due to fuel consumption, or that the turbine was a stupid choice in general. While the AGT 1500 does have a higher fuel consumption rate, this is offset by the M1's greater fuel capacity. For example, the M1A1 had a cruising range of 289 miles, or 465 kilometers. Generally, turbines offer better performance than diesel engines. Turbines provide better low-end torque, more horsepower at lower speeds, and better acceleration. Turbines are also, surprisingly, more covert than diesels, as they are quieter and don't produce smoke. Turbines are pretty fuel efficient while operating at higher speeds, but are massively inefficient while idling. This problem was solved with the implementation of an auxiliary power unit which the M1 could use to power vital systems. The turbine was chosen for use on the M1 primarily for its performance and multi-fuel capability, as the Army was convinced that units would have to scrounge for fuel in a World War III scenario. For armor, the Abrams is good, though it's difficult to say just how good. The armor is still classified, and trying to speculate would be rather pointless. At the very least, it's known that the turret is incredibly strong. The turret is the most likely spot for a tank to be hit frontally. The mantlet is also pretty small, so that weak spot is pretty well minimized. The area in which the Abrams really shines, however, is in the department of survivability. At the time of its introduction, and for quite some time after, the M1 had the best survivability in the world. All of the M1's ammunition is protected by blowout panels. These panels prevent catastrophic ammunition explosions by venting when the ammunition is struck. Not only that, but all of the M1's fuel tanks are compartmentalized with armored walls. These walls, for the most part, prevent fires from spreading to the crew compartment. All in all, the Abrams is an effective and well-designed tank, with a lot of consideration being given to the crew's safety. Though the M1 is still fairly effective to this day, it does seem to be getting a little long in the tooth. It appears as though it's reaching the upper limit of how much weight can be added onto it. Numerous programs have tried to find a replacement for the M1, but so far all have failed. Opinions on the M1 seem to be rather polarized. Either it's the greatest thing in the world, or it's a piece of garbage. I disagree with both notions. It's pretty hard to say what modern tank truly beats another, as tank design has become so incredibly homogeneous. It's my personal belief that the M1 is near the top of the list, but I don't have much more to say than that. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you thought the video was informative, leaving a like or comment helps out a lot. And I'll see you on the next one.